In a recent meeting with a couple, they asked, given you work with a lot of retirees, how are we doing compared to most? And this is a common question because people want to know, are they measuring up? And if they're taking the right steps to get to their ideal retirement. So in today's episode, we're going to share some actual data and circumstances from 4 different retirement journeys that we pulled from a study so that you might be able to identify which stage you're in or which one you're heading towards. And then we'll also share some planning opportunities that you could take advantage of to help you achieve the journey you desire so you can enhance your today and enrich your tomorrow. But first, I'm Chad Smith. This is Allison Berger, and we're with Financial Symmetry in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we work with retirees across the country to help them develop plans to reach their ideal retirement. So if you like videos about living a more fulfilled retirement, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss our next video. So as we jump into this episode, we're going to talk through these 4 groups, and our first group is the regretful strugglers. And when you hear that, you might first think a vision comes to mind of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and you think of the grandparents in the bed. But the reality is, this is the largest group of people, and that is not most of these people. They may be just living on Social Security. They may be people that you know, but there's some opportunities in here that we can talk about that maybe if you would have planned to get there this way, it would be different. So you want to talk through some of those, Allison?
Sure. And I think some of the real interesting characteristics of this group is a large percentage made early withdrawals from their retirement account, so 48%, and less than 50% actually retired by choice. Many had to retire due to illness, caregiving roles, divorce, or widowhood. So unfortunately, the circumstances were not great for this demographic. So really, in terms of your retirement path, we want to think about planning opportunities to help you avoid this fate. And really that includes getting started investing early and often, maxing out those retirement accounts as much as you can, and especially in those years leading up to retirement in your 50s, adding catch-up contributions if you can is really going to help you with that retirement income security. You might also consider working part-time, and in those working years, accumulating investments in different types of accounts. So a brokerage account, Roth IRAs, 401ks, not all assets that are going to be subject to an early withdrawal penalty if you have to take distributions prior to age 59 and a half. Some other things you might consider are maybe downsizing or using a home equity line of credit as a low interest source of debt. And maybe further down the road, you might even need to consider a reverse mortgage to help make ends meet over the long term.
Yeah, and this is a reality for a lot of retirees, and regrets is a big theme around this group. And that was one of our most popular episodes actually here on the channel, if you want to check that out, Retirement Regrets, if you haven't already. So our next path and journey that is described in this study is called the challenged yet hopefuls. And these are people that also started saving very late, but they're making the most of their retirement. So there's some planning opportunities around this group as well, because they have that desire to make sure that their retirement is a fulfilling one. So talk about those planning opportunities, Allison.
Sure. And who comes to mind when we think about these challenged yet hopeful retirees is Moira and Johnny on Schitt's Creek. And they talk about some tough circumstances. They lost pretty much all of their holdings except for one little town that they happen to own with a motel. But what we do see in this group is they spend a lot of time with family and friends, just like Johnny and Moira, who were living in very close quarters with their kids, but maintaining positive attitudes and working to try to reinvent themselves. So when we're looking at this group, they were also highly likely to make early withdrawals from their retirement accounts, but a larger percentage were able to retire by choice rather than being forced out of the workforce. So planning opportunities for this group to consider might be, again, working part-time or downsizing, using some tools or strategies and some of that part-time income to hopefully delay Social Security. Delaying Social Security until either full retirement age or age 70, if you have a long life expectancy, really increases your retirement income security. So we want to think about ways that this group might be able to do that. If they're retiring prior to age 65, they might also be able to take advantage of some premium tax credits to pay a lower health insurance cost. So that might be something they want to consider. And then using that part-time income or other sources to hopefully delay withdrawals from their retirement accounts until age 59 and a half and longer if possible. Again, maybe this involves the use of a home equity line of credit. There are some rules available to this group, like maybe using 72T exemption or the rule of 55 to take withdrawals without penalty from your 401k or IRA prior to 59 and a half. These are typically what I would call a last resort strategy if you do not have other options, because they are really going to negatively impact your long-term retirement income security.
Yes, and I didn't mention this is from a study called The New Journey of Retirement and Longevity. It's from AgeWave and Edward Jones, sampled 11,000 different people. So they came up with these groups, but what we're doing is providing some commentary of what we've seen and people we've worked with and the kind of characteristics around that and planning opportunities we talk with them about. So this next group is they call the Relaxed Traditionalists. And these people are pursuing a more traditional type of retirement focused on rest and relaxation. But they started saving for retirement a little earlier, average age of 37. So who do you think of when you think of this one, Allison?
For these, I got to think of, I need to throw in a Seinfeld reference, Morty and Helen. So Jerry's parents really seem to fit this demographic for me. They are very open to moving, this group, and we see that with them. They move to Del Boca Vista, and they're leading a life that's free from some of the stressors of work and the obligations of raising children. So we do see this group is much more financially stable than the two that we've looked at so far. Much less likely to have made early withdrawals from their retirement accounts, only about 20%. So some planning opportunities that they might want to think about is if they're charitably inclined, maybe they want to use a qualified charitable distribution strategy from their IRAs to help save some tax dollars. Again, they might want to delay Social Security so they get that higher cost of living adjustment on a higher base benefit amount that's going to contribute to that lifetime income security. They might also be eligible for that ACA subsidy like we talked about earlier. This group, if they've had strong income in their working years, they might be subject to higher Medicare premiums. So that might be something we need to consider in tax planning, and maybe we need to send in an IRMA adjustment letter request to help get those costs down if we don't expect income to be at that level going forward. And then lastly, there could be some really good tax planning opportunities for this group if they're retiring prior to Social Security and their financial situation is strong enough to do that. Maybe we want to consider some Roth conversions or realizing gains at 0%. That might be an option for this group.
And if you want to dive deeper on either of those topics, the IRMA appeal for Medicare premiums or how to execute a Roth conversion, we have 2 different videos on those. You can search here on the YouTube channel and go deeper if you want to. And then this last group brings a smile to my face because working with these people, it's always a joy because many times they're feeling very fulfilled. And this group's called the Purposeful Pathfinders. They've planned very well to get to where they want to be. Might have retired early. They started saving the earliest as well, generally average of age 34, but they're very active, taking advantage of travel, vacations. And I love this example that we picked out for this one because it's one of the first things that came to mind. You want to walk through that one, Allison?
Yeah, Chad had a great pop culture reference here, and it's Robert De Niro in The Intern. It's a story of a man who's making a course correction after the death of his wife. And you can imagine when his wife was alive, they were probably living this purposeful Pathfinder experience together. And then he's finding his way after that and trying new things, doing some experimenting, trying yoga, taking Mandarin classes, and finally becoming an intern at a technology firm, which is, it's a comedy. So you see a lot of his challenges there. But the attitude and the willingness to reinvent themselves. And in this group, very high percentage were able to retire by choice when they wanted to. Almost 90% chose when they retired. So these are in the strongest financial position of the 4 retirement paths that we've looked at so far. So a lot of the planning opportunities for them are going to be the same as the Relaxed Traditionalists, but they might open some more doors here because their financial situation is so strong. So they might even consider a donor advised fund, particularly in their last 1 to 5 years of working when their income might be particularly high. They might have stocks or mutual funds or ETFs with large unrealized gains in them. They might consider donating some of those to charity or directly to a donor advised fund to take advantage of some tax savings there. They might also be interested in funding education for their grandchildren or maybe doing some family gifting to support their adult children and who are raising families. So for this group, I would also say legacy planning becomes really important in terms of making sure your estate documents are in place and you've had those conversations with your heirs about what you want to see happen after you're no longer here.
Yes, and I have to mention that we'll throw a graph in here about saving earlier and the example of how you can build and the differences if you start at 25, at age 35, or age 45, because that's one of the most tremendous things, the power of compounding about saving for retirement that can change your journey. And also you could download the pre-retirement checklist. We'll put a link in our description below that can help you walk through and be more prepared as you're making your way into retirement. So which journey are you in? Love to hear about it from you. And if you want to check out other episodes, there's many here on the channel. You can subscribe over here if you don't want to miss the next episode. We put these out every 2 weeks. We look forward to you joining us the next time.